All right, and we're live. Episode 3 of the BassHead podcast. It's been a while,
Just the two of us
bro.
can make it if we try.
we're down 2 guys, at least for a little bit. Nick's not feeling well, and Bart is down on Eufaula practicing for his next big derby. But he should be joining us in, I would think, the next 10 minutes or so. But man, I feel like it was hard to get an episode recorded.
It was like work, kids. I was down south last week, and then like we're all kind of scrambling. Like, okay, openers in like 5-6 days. Like we gotta get the boats ready and like stuff done. And it's just been crazy. And then all of a sudden, like all the dog poop showed up in my yard. It's just been terrible.
So. Right. And Bart's been down. He was down on Kentucky Lake, had an awesome derby down there. We'll talk about that once he jumps on. And then, he's traveling again. You follow. Hopefully he's got reception. He said he was going to try to jump on. If not, we'll probably have a short episode.
Either that or, worst case scenario, we just get audio from him, right? He's
right.
None of us are going on the TV. We have faces for radio, right? So let's
there we go.
That's fine.
Right. But with that being said, man, opener's like 5 days away.
Yeah.
This is what we wait for for a long 6-month period, 7 months. I feel like this winter, it's here.
Yeah, I feel confident that my boss doesn't watch this podcast. He lives in Florida. This is probably officially the most unproductive week that I have all year. And I'm not even fishing. Like I went out yesterday. I went to Tonka yesterday, just kind of make sure everything's working and everything. But
right.
There's a pretty good chance. I'm obviously getting work done. Don't worry. But it's just like, you're tinkering with stuff and looking at, okay, is my map chip updated? And just all that stuff that you think about over the course of this week. And it's when you have those vacations or those times when you go out for a couple of days and you don't think of this stuff, then stuff doesn't work. So when you have okay, I got some time, I'm going to figure some stuff out. And right. There's a lot of stuff to do.
It is too. And, it's funny because I went and checked my tire pressure today. Luckily, my buddy Todd's like, you should probably check your tire pressure. It usually, deflates a little bit during the winter. PSI on my tires is like a max of 50. I went and checked them. All of them are low 30s.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad he said
I had the exact same.
Just, it's little things like that. I went out on the lake last week just to putz around with the graphs, make sure the 0.1 was working on my boat, which it is now. And took off going down the lake and I couldn't get a depth reading. And there's so many different settings to try to figure it out. Yeah. Finally figured it out. You have to, for the sonar feature, you have to make sure you have the through hole transducer picked. Yep. And then for the edit overlay, when you add the speed on or the depth on there, that has to have the right unit picked. And I don't have my units named, so I have 3 live units. So I'm driving in circles, trying to hitting every unit, hitting every transducer, trying to figure it out. But I finally got it figured out. And I think she's ready to rock now.
Mine's almost there. I made the mistake. So I had everything ready last weekend when we went out and everything worked good. My active target didn't work, but now it works fine. I don't, probably my fault. I disconnected everything and rehooked everything up, not rewired, but put new splicers on everything. And now it works fine. But, so I had the old Lowrance 3-in-1 transducer last weekend when I hooked up the new units. So I selected everything and everything works great. And then now I have the new transducer on. So I have 8 iterations of units on there because when you reset it and do everything, it picks a whole nother unit. So when I go to select a transducer, there's 8 things sitting there. And I might have to just do a hard reset at this point just to start over because it's a little out of control.
Right. That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah. Because there's 8 HDS Live Pros on my screen right now. I don't know which ones are there and which ones aren't.
Yeah, but that's what going out before opener does.
Yep.
Gets everything dialed in. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I'd rather be fishing than dialing stuff in.
Right.
But looks like we got Bart. Bart's here. I'm going to add him.
What's up, guys? Don't mind me. I'm going to be eating pizza this whole time, too.
Brent's eating pizza, too. Look,
I just ate my pizza. I'm going to make another plate. Don't worry about
it. What did you guys go over? Did you just where are we at?
We're just about to wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We've only been in for 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, we were just talking about how hard it's been to schedule one of these episodes. We got two of us that have kids and families and activities. You're traveling, hitting big tournaments. Brent's working sales and traveling all over the place. It's hard to find time sometimes, but we got to do it right before opener. We got to do one at least.
Yeah, for sure. No, we gotta for opener. By the way, now that you've officially posted it, congrats on the 8-pounder. That's sick.
Yeah, much appreciated, man. I still can't believe it happened. It's just, the sweetest part about like living right now is having a phone with an amazing camera and being able to take videos.
Right.
So you're able to remember those memories,
Could you imagine, like, if you had a Polaroid, you'd be like, oh, crap.
Terrible. The memory. That's all you remember.
Was that on a black and blue jig?
It was not. It was actually on a chatterbait.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And then I got one that went 6.94 to right under 7, and that was on a spinnerbait. So 2 moving baits catch the giants, which was not something I was expecting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was sweet.
But the majority of fish were jigs, right?
Yeah, majority of our fish we did catch on jigs. I think the first day we were down there, well, just to recap, which was kind of nice, me and Brent, was there 9 of us? There was 8 of us. 4 boats. We took some time off and went down to Boji for pretty much 3 full days of fishing, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, I was just Saturday, Friday afternoon, Saturday, but yeah.
No, that's right. You and Chappie and those guys showed up Thursday night, but that's one of the great things about where we live, though, too, is that, a 3-hour car drive gets you to a lake that has absolute giants in it.
Right.
So it's nice to be able to jump the border and actually be able to target some bass this time of year, but it was a good trip to knock off the dust. I would say that.
3 hours. 3 hours is nothing, right? I mean, Bart, you just drove 18 or whatever it was, but 3 hours, like it seems like
it's 19 hours driving with gas stops.
Right.
It was about 21.
Yeah, it's just I always had this preconceived notion, this is years ago, that Okoboji was like a lifetime away. It's like, no, you could actually go for a day trip if you really wanted to. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a great thing about Big Stone, too. It's probably 2 of the best bass lakes in the Midwest right now. And they're both 3 hours away from where we live. Far enough that they don't get completely hammered by the metro anglers, but close enough where if you want to go take a day trip, works pretty well.
I think that's going to change pretty quickly here.
It might, but from what I've talking to the people that fish down in Boji, like they said, it's not even worth it in the summer. It's worse than Minnetonka. So that's
the boat traffic down there is insane.
Yeah, so I think that helps it, and keeps a lot of the tournaments off it during the summer and a lot of the pressure. And then with Big Stone, that lake completely weeds over starting mid-June, late June through August, making it very, very hard to fish. So, there's those gaps that they're not getting hit as hard because of the conditions, which I think is why it probably has created such great fishing on those 2 places. But they're gonna get hit a lot harder now. But we'll see.
Boji's not. I mean, neither of them are new, right? I mean,
No.
Big Stone, Big Stone blew up, 3 years ago, something like that. And when I say blow up, started to be on the radar. Boji, I mean, guys have been catching 6s and 7s in Boji for a handful of years now, and it's still, I mean, there was a decent amount of boats when we were down there, but it wasn't. I never pulled up to a spot other than the Magic Dock where I wanted to fish and there was somebody sitting there, right? I never had that scenario, and there was a tournament. So it was the week before the Open. It was a tournament the next day, the Saturday we were there.
Yeah,
Sunday.
Tournament. There was a college tournament that Saturday.
Yeah, so there was plenty of reasons for people to be out there, and it wasn't anything where I was like, "This is a disaster," right? And I think the thing about Okoboji, they're both pretty big bodies of water. Okoboji fishes pretty big. Number one, because it has both species, smallmouth and largemouth, and then there's just if you like fishing docks, I highly recommend you drive 3 hours south to Lake Okoboji, because there is more docks on that lake than any lake I've ever been on, and it's not close. More than Minnetonka, I swear.
It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. It seems like there's 5 docks per cabin.
Yeah.
On that lake. I feel like people that own cabins rent, put giant dock systems, and then they rent out slits for
sure. They have
everybody else across. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it, but it's fun because I enjoy skipping docks with a jig and pulling some giants out from there.
And there was football fields of docks that hadn't been out yet.
Right.
I mean, there was docks all over the shoreline that hadn't. I mean, like fields up in the grass that had 200 boat lifts that hadn't been put out yet. It was crazy.
Yeah. But it was good time. I feel like we were a little early for like completely smashing them, especially on the main lake. Like West Boji was pretty cold still. That was like 46 degrees.
Yeah.
But some of the areas where we found warmer water, you could tell fish were moving in. They were coming in schools. I mean, we fished some docks behind people. Like we were behind 2 boats that had already went through there, and we were still plucking off fish from those docks.
Right. That dock, that, like I said, that one dock in particular that that dock on that Saturday, I gotta imagine that dock had 30 fish pulled off of it for probably about 120 pounds. I mean, it was just a stupid. And I talked to somebody else who fished the Open, and they had a similar dock on East Boji that they fished for 5-6 hours, and they caught, I don't know how they ended up, I didn't look, but they caught 20-30 fish off of this dock. It's just, this time of the year, and it happens again in the fall or whatever, but there's these docks, you have these funnels or whatever, but that one in particular was just, it is draw up a textbook, May pre-spawn dock, and it couldn't have been drawn up any better, but they were just flying through.
Have you fished it, Bart?
For the brown ones.
Yeah, not for the greens. Nah.
No, I normally go down there pretty early. I'm normally there before anybody else has been there, typically.
Sure.
And I just go fish for smallmouth and do that. Like when the bite gets really good there for the largemouth, in my opinion, or people start catching the big ones, I'm normally like going somewhere down south for a tournament. Sure. So I don't normally swing into there at that time.
Yeah.
We had a couple guys look for ground ones.
Yeah. Oh, Chappie got a 5-pounder.
Yep.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take an 8.33 green one over a brown one, 5-pound brown one any day.
Yeah, I would take that too.
But
I ain't really a dock guy though, so.
Well, and the 2 big ones I caught, I didn't even pull off docks. They're round docks, but they were off of them a little bit.
I gotcha. Well, that's still cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was actually kind of cool because Brent and his boy Dominic were across from where me and my brother were fishing when me and Matt were fishing. We caught that big one, and I didn't even know what to do. There's a boat down the way. I'm like, Brent, it's 8. It's 8. And he's like, shh, quiet.
Yeah. So we decided the night before or the morning of to wager some money. And we had a pretty good group of guys that like to wager money, like a couple in particular, Tony's brother and Chappie. I mean, if we would have said, so we got to tell that poker story in a minute too.
Gambling money,
right?
We got a poker story that, I mean, it's probably one of the best stories ever with Donnie. But
yeah,
so we decided, that morning to do $50 a guy or whatever. So we start somewhere else on another little dock deal, and we catch nothing. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So went down to where we had fished the day before, and Tony had caught his 695. I'm like, well, that seems like a pretty good area. So I went down there and fishing these docks across the channel. So what, 50 yards away, maybe something like that, 75 yards away. And I just happened to look over, and Tony sets the hook, and this fish jumps, and I'm like, well, that looks like a pretty good fish. And Matt all of a sudden scrambles for the net. Like, I've never seen him move so fast unless there's a bush light across the way. But he scrambles for the net, and then they net it, and they're just starting to freak out. And the first words out of Matt's mouth were, "It's a 7." And I think to myself, well, they just saw a 7 like 2 days ago or whatever. So they must know it's a 7. And then they're both just like swearing up a storm, right? And they weigh it, and Tony looks over, and he's like, "It's 833 or whatever." And I'm like, and Tony said to Matt, like, "We just won." And I told the Dominic, I'm like, "We just lost, right? There's no way we're winning. We're out."
3 fish derby, we won.
Yeah. It was a 3 fish derby, and they had the winning weight in the first hour or whatever.
I think I maybe made 10 casts in the next hour after that.
Yeah.
Sat down. There was 1 beer left in the boat. I was like 9 in the morning. I drank a beer. It was just, I mean, that's what I live for, that's why I do what I do. And I me, I don't tournament fish that much. I go fun fishing, and it's the chase of the big ones is that what gets me going. And being able to catch a fish of a lifetime like that up north is just awesome. I messaged Eric Frank. He's a taxidermist here. Does amazing. I messaged him like immediately on Facebook. I'm like, "Hey, I just got a fish of a lifetime. What do I need to do?" Right. So I put a deposit down within the first hour of catching that fish on a amount that I'm going to get. It's going to be like 12 to 18 months, but it's going to be worth it once I get it back.
Right.
Yeah,
there was 3 PBs broke. You broke. Your 694 broke one, and your 833. Dominic broke his. He has a 5.5, but he broke his or whatever. So it was a pretty cool deal just to have that happen for everybody. So it was a fun trip. So the poker story. So
you got to listen, Bart. This might be one of the greatest.
And if I screw up, Tony, correct me. But so we're the first night, Friday night, we're gonna play poker, and it's like 8:00 at night or something like that. And Donnie and his son Dalton don't play poker at all. So we're talking about buy-ins, and all that, and we're talking about chip value. And we're like, okay, the red ones are worth 500, red ones worth 400, blue ones are worth 200, and white ones are worth 100 or whatever, something like that. And so Donnie, we're just sitting there kind of talking through rules. They don't play poker. We're doing a hand and kind of a practice hand and all that. And I could see the wheels turning in Donnie's head. And he's like, okay, this is, whatever. This is good. And his son Dalton, they were kind of, taking it in and learning how to play a little bit. We did a dry run. And so we're about to start. And Donnie goes, "Dalton, you got enough money?" And we're like, "That's like $20 a head, dude. What are you worried about?" And Donnie goes, "This is $1,500, right? Like, there's $1,500 in chips here. That's how much we're playing for, right?" And we're like, and obviously for those of you that know Chappie, he's like, "Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're playing for $1,500, absolutely." But the rest were like, no, it's $20.
He was in immediately.
He was in. He was totally in. It didn't matter if it was $1,500 or $20. He was just worried, like, are you good? To his 20-year-old kid, he's like, you got $1,500 on you? Are you good for this? But Donnie was all in. He's like, yeah, it just totally ready to lose $1,500. It was just awesome.
It was amazing. Chappie just loved it. Chappie was like, well,
fishing and open.
right. Chappie was like, let's go. I would go $5,000 if I didn't have to just buy a brand new boat trailer.
Right.
You know?
The proud owner of 2 boat trailers.
Right. But yeah, it was an awesome trip. It's a great place to go to kind of get away from the Minnesota season and catch some giants, because we were going to go to Big Stone, but that still was ice. What was that?
Is Chappie getting his trailer back, or what's the situation there? Like, what actually happened?
It sounds like it actually costs more to fix it than it does to like buy a new trailer or something like that.
Basically the same. So it was like over $4,000 to fix it. So he's fighting with insurance. He's fighting with the warranty. So Phoenixes are great boats on that fashion. So there is maintenance-free lifetime warranty, right? Well, he took that to heart. Like, I don't have to touch it ever. So he's fighting with them on warranty. He's fighting with insurance. He's not really fighting with insurance. That just takes time. But he was down there on Ozarks and just had to get home. So he messaged some people and went to some dealerships or whatever and found this guy who just has random boat trailers for sale occasionally, and found one. It was actually for a Ranger. It was for a VS series. So either a 621 or a 622 deep V, and it fits his boat. Yeah. Right. So there's about a foot hanging off on the back, and it doesn't go all the way up to the front. But it works, right? If you know Chappie, that it's good enough. It's a brand new trailer, so he'll be able to basically, once his trailer situation gets figured out, he'll be able to sell that trailer for what he paid for it and be fine.
And for those listening that don't know what happened, James Chapman, Matt Garfield were heading down to fish Lake of the Ozarks, and his 2 tires on his dual axle trailer on I think the driver's side just went flying off at 75 miles an hour. Oh. Spindles busted, whatever. I don't even know exactly what happened, but messed his trailer up. Luckily, things didn't turn out worse than that, because that trailer could have jackknifed and crap could have went south real quick after that. So that's the good part, but it's a typical Chappie story. But yeah, so now he's fighting with insurance because insurance said that the spindles on it or something were rusted and they wouldn't cover it, which makes no sense to me since trailers are in the water all the time. There's going to be rusting. Right. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, good trip down there. That was kind of, even after the last trip the last podcast, I made a trip back to South Dakota. Of course, the weather was garbage. Got to fish. Went back there for 3 days of fishing. Got to fish one day because the other 2 days were raining 38 degrees and blowing 20 to 40 with gusts over 50. So
right.
That was enjoyable. Ended up catching some fish, but it was still pretty cold. Felt good to set the hook though.
It's crazy. I'm on Boji. I missed my first like 3 or 4 bites. Like I forgot how to set the hook. Apparently, it's crazy. Like we don't fish year round here. I mean, Bart, you do, but it's just like I set the hook and I'm like, I missed the first 4. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like it's my first time ever.
Right.
I figured it out.
First bite of the year is like it's like just a shock. Like you have the rod in your hand and all of a sudden something happens and you're like, huh. Like
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like literally the first bite of the year, you kind of just panic. Sometimes you set the hook perfectly, sometimes you totally miss it. Like sometimes, like there's been a year before where like it was on a jig and I like sat there like reeling down my line like 8 times to make sure it's there as it's just like swimming at me holding on to it.
Right.
Right.
Dude, just let it rip,
Right. For sure. Well, being that Brent said you fish almost year round, Bart. Let's jump into the open, man. Let's get into some details because I feel like
You mean the Toyota series? It wasn't an open.
Oh yeah, not the open,
I
the
would-
Toyota series. No, you can't fish 9 of them. That's insane. The Toyota series. Let's talk about Kentucky Lake because I feel like what you did there, people could utilize that here, and I don't even think they do it very often here either.
No, I'll kind of talk about what I was doing.
You don't want to spill the beans.
Yeah. I'll talk about what I've talked on other stuff about, but yeah, I mean, no, Kentucky Lake. I mean, it is. There are so many bass in that lake.
Uh-oh, we lost him. He froze.
We're gonna go look at Bart's O face, I think.
We'll see what happens.
There he comes.
Am I back?
There he is.
All right, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so Kentucky Lake. What was the most surprising to me when I got down there? I went largemouth. Well, the first day, I shouldn't say that. The first day I went smallmouth fishing a little bit, but I just cranking, throwing a swim bait, threw a tube a little bit, but just more of like just getting a feel for the lake and everything. Caught a handful of fish, but my biggest one I actually caught on a sunny beat cranking. It was like a 4 1/4 probably. So I was like, oh, okay, there's like a good cranking bite or whatever. Then the next day and a half, I kind of went largemouth fishing. And for people who don't know Kentucky Lake, if around April, around the spawn time, if the lake is not at full summer pool, the largemouth kind of, I don't know, they're not too pumped about the whole spawning situation. Because if you look at Kentucky Lake, all the bushes, all the spawnable habitat is like right on the bank, and the water has to be at full pool for it to be accessible. So when I kind of noticed that it was low, and I had looked at the forecast for the TVA and saw it was low, I was like, okay, either I have to find largemouth spawning somewhere else, or pre-spawn or post-spawn or whatever. Or I was like, I can maybe try to run into these smallies that I've kind of heard about, and I had found some day one. So I kind of went around and just started looking. Honestly, I started fishing it a little bit like the Mississippi River for a while, looking at flats and just sand flats, gravel flats, stuff like that. And I eventually ended up running into one bed. And are we allowed to swear on here, Tony, or not?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I found one bed, and I thought I did. And I was like, okay, that looks kind of like a bed. You know, I can't see it though. I'm just looking at my 360. And I pitch over at it. My line takes off. And if anybody was within 7 miles of me on the TVA, they would have heard me scream, fuck yeah. And I literally, in my head, I just went, this is all I'm doing the rest of practice. So I had 2.5 days looking around there. I ended up finding, oh man, I went through and counted after. I think I ended up with 150 to 180 waypoints. And I mean, dude, that was like, I mean, I caught fish that I didn't even have waypointed. Like I was just meandering around areas, and I was like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And it was a perfect storm, to be honest. Like they were, I was worried actually that they were leaving when I kind of first found them. But then I found one area that I had a bunch, probably 50 to 60 of them. It was a big spawning flat. And when I got there, I found it the last day of practice. And when I got there day one, there was about 20 more of them there. And I fished 3 of my waypoints day one. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I literally like I stopped fishing for smallmouth at 8:30 on day one of that tournament. Because I knew what I had, and I also knew that I mean, I ran out to the middle of the lake. I looked all the way up and down the lake because I was boat 3. So everybody was blasting off. By the time the last boat passed me heading down to Paris, or wherever down lake to go, I was putting my third 3.5 in the live well, and there was not a boat I could see 10 miles up or 10 miles down the lake. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have this to myself.
Right.
So,
it's not a bad
Would you do that
problem.
day one different?
Right.
No. So I had a few people ask that. I don't think so. I don't think I would. Because at the time, I wasn't sure how much I had.
Right.
Like, that's kind of the other thing.
Or how much you needed, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know how much I needed. I got up to what the BFL winning weight was the Sunday before. And I was like, okay, I have that. So in my head, I was like, someone might weigh 20 pounds of largemouth today, whatever. But I was like, some people weighing some smallmouth too. But in my head, I knew, I was like, I'm pretty confident today is going to be my lowest bag, and I'll just get bigger every day. And that's the way it ended up playing out. Now, I do think back on, in terms of strategy, if I would have laid into him day one, I would have, with my 5 biggest fish I caught in that tournament that I had marked, I would have weighed in about 23.5 day one, or 22.5. And that might have sent Jake into a bit of a tailspin.
Right.
However, I definitely couldn't have backed it up. So that was kind of the battle. Was I was trying to figure out how to manage fish. I didn't know how big they all were.
Sure.
So yeah, I got to 17.5 day one. I saw what they weighed in day two. I looked at the Oklahoma guys I was staying with, and I said, all right, I'm not putting my foot off the gas till I'm at 19 tomorrow. We got to 19 at about 12:30 and just kept looking for more fish. I actually caught like 20 or 30 more fish on day two. None of them helped.
Yeah. So was Jake the winner? Was he doing the same thing? Was he bed fishing?
Jake was bed fishing, but I talked to him, and he didn't realize what was going on till day one of the tournament.
Oh,
So
really?
he was just really I mean, Jake's a local. Like, he's literally a guide on the lake. He's won.
Yeah.
I mean, Jake's won like a lot there in the last 4 years. But he said that he didn't realize what was going on till then. So he just started running around, fishing just areas he had seen them. Like, he was catching 20 to 30 fish a day, is what he told me. And I mean, day one, I caught like 15 of them, and I called it good. But day 2 and 3, I probably caught, day 2, 50 to 70. Day 3, I honestly might have caught 80 to 100 fish.
That's a fun day.
Yeah.
That's a fun tournament, man.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool going into day 3, because I knew, I knew I'd only fished a third of my weight points. So I was so excited. I was like, catch them all.
Burn it down.
Yeah. And I will say, until the moment I checked in, I believed I was going to win that tournament.
Yeah.
Because my first 2 casts, the first 2 beds, or casts, whatever, the first 2 fish I threw at on day 3, so I had a fish on day 2 that I'd gotten up to 15-ish on my starting area. And I looked at my co and I had said, all right, we're going to leave. And I was about to leave, and I was like, oh, no, I'm just going to throw at this one. And I just threw at it quick, set the hook. It came up and kind of wallowed and came off. And I was like, oh, dang, that looked big. And I threw back, and I immediately snagged the rock or stump or whatever it was on, broke off. And I looked at my co, and I was like, that's the fishing gods telling me I'm supposed to catch that one tomorrow. And so when I got back that night, I told the guys, I was like, I got a date with the big one right away in the morning. And I pulled up to that fish right away in the morning, threw at it, and it ended up being a 4 3/4.
Sweet.
And I did not think it was that big. I thought it was a 3 3/4 to a 4. Like, getting over about 396 on that lake is really hard. Like, there is a ton of 3 1/4 to 3.5 pounders. And So when I caught that, I was like, oh my God, this is my biggest fish of the week. And then I just looked down at my 360 and there was a stump, I don't know, off to the side that I don't know if anything was on it or not. Like I was just like, oh, there's a stump. I don't have a waypoint on that. And I pitched my tube over at that. Line took off, set the hook, 4 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
So my first 2 fish of the morning were 2 of the 4 or 5 biggest fish I weighed in the event. And I looked at my co-angler and like I had to chill for like 5 minutes because I looked at him. I was like, I jokingly said I needed to weigh 20 today, and I was like, buddy, we are well on our way right now. So I started off the morning real good there, and I just went around and had a ball. And like I said, until the moment I checked in, I thought I was going to win. I looked at my scale going in at about 19 and a half, and I knew what Jake was doing too. And I just, I was like, man, if he's around as many fish as I am, like there's just, or even half as many, I was like, there's no way he's not going to weigh 17 and a half. So that's what I was hoping for, but he had about a little over 18 the last day.
So did you, so you said 360 is rock stumps, whatever, right? And you can't physically see them, right? Or so were some of the stumps out of the water?
No.
All underwater. So did you side image to find these, or just troll around with 360 and find them, or how did you actually locate 100 and some waypoints?
I just found areas where there was a bunch of stumps or rocks, and then I started going around, and basically I just had a cutoff too. After I caught like 8 of them in practice, and they were all over 3 pounds. So I just had a hitchhike around a tube. So I'd just go to areas and be like, hey, there's a bunch of stumps and rocks here. And I'd pitch at like 4 or 5 of them. And I was like, I got bit on every single one. And on 360, you can see their beds. So
yeah.
Pretty easy seeing beds then on the 360.
Yeah. I'm not going to say all the time.
Right.
There it was really easy. I don't know what it was, the bottom or whatever, but like, I mean, up in Minnesota, man, or like other places I've been, like, sometimes you can't really see them.
I feel like
a lot of it depends on the bottom. That Kentucky Lake bottom's a lot of sand and gravel, so I think they move a lot of sediment to make their bed. So they're pretty easy to see.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture what Mille Lacs would look like. I feel like it would be hard because everything's rock.
Yeah, and so on lakes with a lot of rock or hard bottom, they're really hard to see.
Right.
So that it kind of
people know. Yeah, but people know, those big ones on Mille Lacs, they bed out deep.
Yeah.
That would be awesome to be able to see those with 360.
So would you say some of my favorite Bassmaster tournaments watching 10 years ago were on Kentucky? I mean, is it back? I mean, is it coming back? Is it back? Are the grass carp still there, or what's going on with the lake?
That was my first time at the lake, so I don't know what the situation is with I don't know what it was like with the carp before, but from what I heard, it's about 10 times better. There's about 10 times less is what people said. When I was running around graphing or whatever, I never really saw the big schools you saw pictures of or whatever. There was one area by the lake where there was probably about 100 yards of them. I actually killed one when I was idling on accident.
Congrats.
Like all of a sudden,
no, it's fine.
I just felt my boat shake, and I was like, oh my God, did I hit something? I looked down, it was 19 feet. I'm like, what? I turned around, and there's just a carp rolling in the water and blood spraying everywhere. I was like, oh, whoops. But yeah, so the carp situation's a lot better from what I've heard. I've also heard the largemouth are actually doing a lot better than people think they are. I just think it was the perfect recipe of not seeing the largemouth. That's kind of what it was. If you look back at like weights in February and March, like you'll see a lot more big largemouth. They're definitely, I mean, it's not like it's the numbers it was before, right?
Yeah.
But like I kind of told everyone there, I was like, you guys might not have as many largemouth here, but this place is an insane smallmouth fishery.
Yeah, and when did that happen?
The last 4 or 5 years. So basically what I I mean, I'm not a Kentucky Lake expert, but I had, or a TVA expert, but I had a lot of people asking me why I thought there was so many smallmouth there from what I had seen. And honestly, like, there's no grass. And what people don't know about Kentucky Lake, if you look at a lake map of that place, probably over 50 or 60% of that lake is less than 10 feet.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of long, like, we are talking 40 miles of flats that are 2 to 6 feet deep. And kind of what I told them is there's no grass on any of those flats. So all of a sudden, you know, and smallmouth will spawn wherever. Like, as long as they have opportunity, they'll do it. And now that they have no competition in those areas, there's no grass around. All the largemouth are back in the creeks. Like, they had unbelievable habitat to spawn the last 3 or 4 years. And I mean, to be honest, until we showed up for that Toyota, like, nobody knew how to catch it. So, like, all the locals told me when we were weighing in, they were like, dude, once April 1st hit, nobody smallmouth fished because they were like, oh, they're spawning. We don't know how to catch them. And so, like, April, just nobody would ever target them. So, that, I think it was the perfect recipe of that. And then it just exploded. Like, there's quite a bit of shad in there again, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely doing good. Like, I'm gonna go. Like, if I'm going south for a trip in the winter next year for fun, I'm going to Kentucky. Like,
Right.
like that place was fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, those, like I said, those were back in the day. Those were some of the best. I mean, from a ledge fishing standpoint, and because you know that's what we don't have ledges, but I like to fish deep rock and trees and whatever. But that was like the one that was some of the most, you know, fun I've had watching bass tournaments was out there. So it's good to hear that it's somewhat
from what
back.
I've heard with the largemouth, the locals said that up until last year for about a week they hadn't been on the ledges in about 8 years. So they said last year they showed up for a little bit, but they're still not
fully back.
Right.
No. And I also think if they try to go back there, they're gonna have a bunch of smallmouth. They got
right.
So,
well, let's ledge fish.
That might be part of the problem.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. Congrats on the awesome finish. That's a big accomplishment, man. That's a big field of anglers to head south. Well, and it's funny, like you said, you go down and you think Kentucky Lake, you would have no idea that it was going to be a smallmouth smash fest.
No, I mean, I'd be lying if I said part of me didn't think, like, oh, I could weigh all smallmouth, but, like, realistically, I was like, you're not going to weigh all smallmouth. Like, that's not going to happen. So when it actually ended up kind of coming to fruition, it was cool. And I mean, everybody, there were so many people reaching out to me that week. Like, it was crazy. So
awesome.
I mean, I appreciate everyone who did, everyone that was watching. Like I said, I tried to bring it back, man. I thought I was gonna. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this thing. But Jake's good. He got a 6'1" largemouth on day one. And that's what I couldn't overcome.
Right. That was
he caught a random largemouth when he was smallmouth fishing.
Right. He just happened to be a giant.
Yeah, I couldn't close the gap on that.
Right.
There wasn't I don't think there was a 5-pound smallmouth weighed the whole derby. So
Right. Huh. I mean, can't complain about it though. That's pretty sweet. No.
No, not at all.
Speaking of tournaments, was today your first day of practice on Eufaula?
No, I got out. So we got here Friday night at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So then slept in Saturday, went out for like 4 or 5 hours Saturday, and then went and grocery shopped and stuff. So yesterday was the first full day. Today was like day 2 of kind of full send.
How's it looking?
I don't know. It's been hit or miss. Like there's a lot of fish doing a lot of different things from what I've seen. So, and what they're exactly doing, I'm not entirely certain of. I just know that the conditions are changing a lot for the weather being stable. For example, like you drive around this lake right now and you can run into 71-degree water, you can run into 79-degree water. Where it is or why it's there makes no sense. You can be in the middle of the lake and boom, it's 78-degree water. Then you go to the mouth of a creek that's super shallow and it's 72. So there's a lot of movement happening, I think, right now. And the lake is about a foot low, so there's a lot more stuff to hit. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm excited for the next 2 days to look around a little bit more. But yeah, I've been here before, so it's just it's Eufaula. It's a dude, and to be honest, it's really hard to get a gauge on a practice down south in a tournament that you spend about 10 hours a day staring at screens.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And that's what everybody's doing. So it's like, it's hard.
You find the spots and you don't know if they're the juice until you hit them.
Yeah. Or like you find something you think's good and then you leave it for like 2 or 3 hours and then nobody's around. So you're like, I'm going to go breeze through there quick to school white bass.
Sure.
So there is some of that. But yeah, I mean, it's Eufaula in May, June. Like this place can go off at any moment in time. So I'm excited for it. It should be fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
I'll be excited to watch it.
Yeah, hopefully we can do well. I told Chappie I'm trying to get some redemption for him and I this week.
After your trip down there.
Yeah, him and I fished an ABT 100 down here 2 years ago. It was like June 3rd. But we had 5 days of practice, and I think him and I both had our boats in the water for 1 day combined together. And then one of us was in the repair shop. Actually, the last day of practice, the first 4 hours of the day, we were both at the marina getting repaired. Like, it was just a week from hell. And then we ended up taking, it was like 31st or 33rd out of 100. And I broke off like 2 over 3-4 pounds. And then on our last spot of the day, we were pulling in, we just swung through a ledge. We had like 1 15-incher. Chappie threw out there, set the hook, and he's like, I don't think it's very big. And like a 6-pounder jumped and threw his football jig back. I was like, there we go. And like if we would have caught that one, we would have taken like 6. But I mean, it was quite the week.
One thing after. All right. Well, redemption time. So good luck.
That's the hope, man. But it's fun. I'm really excited to get back home though.
Yeah.
Like to fish.
Dude, it's gonna be like the next week. Stuff's gonna be popping off. Like opener is hitting with how late the ice was out and how late our winter hit. Like between opener and Memorial Day, so many lakes are gonna be on fire.
Right.
Dude, our team trail Winona weights are gonna be gross. Yeah. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Brent head up Friday. We'll both be up on Mille Lacs for opener. I think it's still going to be a little cold, but I think we're going to find some areas where they're going to be going pretty good. The whole southwest shoreline has icebergs still. Like that ice got piled so high in the shallow water. There's actually like 5 to 10 foot mounds of ice in the shallows that are keeping that area cool. It's trying to heat up, but it's crazy the amount of ice that got pushed up on that south shore.
Well, wasn't there like three days straight of like north winds at 30?
27.
Yeah.
Like
easily.
Sustained 25 to 30. Yeah. But it opened up pretty quick. And I know like the east side's been free for a while, and that's going to be, I think we're going to see some upper 40s, 50-degree water temperatures, which is go time for me for Mille Lacs springtime smallies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just excited to get to places where a bunch of bass want to bite. South, doing these tournaments down south, I got lucky on Kentucky Lake in terms of like there was just a ton of them and I was the only one fishing for them. But generally these tournaments down south, they're always grinds, even if you weigh in big bags. So it's nice to get back home, and even if it's a grinder, you're like, well, I have my limit. What do I do now?
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Where's the first team trail? Where did you say?
Winona.
Okay.
Mississippi River. As long as the river goes to the level it should be at, but I was texting Peter the other day. I think we'll be good. So as long as the accesses are good, and that's kind of the thing I know we were waiting on is there's been so much water over the accesses for the last month. You don't know what they look like.
Right.
So,
it was I live pretty close to Mississippi here, and there was ice floating down it today. So it's definitely up north started to break up and come down, but there was actually in Anoka, there was ice floating down the river today. It's crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah, I mean, that's gonna make when we're there for the trail. It's gonna be really good.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Did you go to school in Winona?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you know that area pretty well.
I know.
He knows the bars. Yeah.
I know. I probably know Wabasha pools better at this point, but I know Winona way better in the fall. That's when we always got out there more. Like I know it in April when the ice first got out and we go do stuff, but I was never there in May because we get out of school this May 7th or whatever and go back home.
I suppose.
So I don't have a ton of experience down there in middle May, but I have a lot more in the fall.
Yeah.
You got to be pretty excited about the Jude getting pushed back, huh?
I am very excited. Just like I told Panger, I was like, dude, we could take 30th and you will have the most fun you've ever had in your life.
Right.
Like it should be a blast. I've been pitching you guys how much we need to go to the river for the Battle of the BassHeads.
It'll go there some year.
Yeah.
For sure.
It'll be everyone will have a newfound love for the river when they go down there in the fall and realize that you can just throw top water basically 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're coming up. We're about 50 minutes in. Got a couple segments left. Try to keep it under an hour or right at an hour. Let's do the what's in your cart. Bart, you probably don't have anything.
No.
You're all rigged up.
Probably.
Brent, you got a pack of hooks on your desk, right?
Yeah, no, I got it. So no,
what's in my cart is probably like some of the big bite like Crete tail worms or the old monsters from Zoom in plum apple. And that's because there'll literally be one of those on every single front deck of this tournament. All 200 boats. Every single person will have it on their front deck.
Yeah.
That's the deal, huh?
Dude, I don't know. Me and Chapman were joking about it when we came down here. We're like, dude, they've seen so many of those damn worms. We can catch them on something else. And we tried it forever. And then we were like, I don't know. We'll try the worm. They hit that worm. They've been eating it for 50 years and they just keep eating it, I guess.
Yeah.
Stop fighting it, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
And the only thing I had, everybody, a lot of people have power poles, talons, whatever it might be. And we all have those stomp switches, right? And so I saw it online a few months ago, whatever, the AMP or AMP Outdoors, those stomp switch pedals. So basically what they do, and I have a picture here, but basically what they do is they take and raise up your stomp switch at an angle, right? So it's angled more towards the back. And it puts that kind of at a little more of an angle. So when you stomp on it, you don't have to have a flat foot. You can kind of have that arch foot like you typically have. And just using it last weekend made a huge difference. Like we all step on that thing twice and look back and it went down halfway or whatever. But it made a big difference. So I highly suggest it. I trim mine down. It's kind of a bigger circle, but I trim mine down to kind of fit better. But it's kind of a cool deal. They don't give them away. They're like $40, whatever. But it's one of those things like you just have to buy it once and you're done. But it was kind of cool. It just makes sense to put that switch at an angle and it just fits your foot better. So I think it was a great purchase. Not in my cart anymore. It's on my boat.
Those things are legit. So
yeah, it makes a big difference.
Brought that up.
Yep. It's stupid easy, right? But I'm glad somebody thought of it. You didn't think of it until you saw it. You're like, well, duh. Because you have to step up on that thing to hit that angle, right? But now that's at a more an angle. I just got to hit it twice easily, and it
That
happens.
guy's that Chad Ashmore who owns Amp.
Yeah.
That dude comes up with great ideas.
So much stuff. Yeah.
From the wedge for the trolling motor to that stuff.
Yep.
I even got a little cover for an old hole that one of my pucks went for, and it's perfect.
And I think they'll do like somewhat custom stuff. Like he'll do like I have a Ranger, and I'm trying to get him to make a kind of a day box cover for me, but they haven't done it yet. But they'll do random stuff for you too, as long as it makes sense.
Yeah. So reach out to those guys if you want to. It's an Amp Marine or something like that. Chad Ashmore. Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. They got some good stuff. I got two things. I'm really excited for these in the summer, especially, but DC Swim Baits, Dave from DC Swim Baits. I got these, and he custom painted a crappie one for me and a bluegill. And this might be my favorite one. It's like a bullhead color that I think could kill down in some dirty waters. Like Big Stone's got a lot of bullhead. But I tied one of those on at Big Stone this last week, and that thing swims so good. And if you guys look at the video, if you have it on the bottom, it almost like noses up, and its tail just kind of goes back and forth if you rest it on the bottom. Huh. So I'm kind of pumped. I'm not a big swim bait guy, but I want to be. I'm a wannabe big swim
Everybody
bait.
is, right? Everybody wants to throw it until they throw it for like an hour and like, this sucks. Where's my
right? But I'll throw this one a lot. So I'm pumped about that. And the other one, I just picked it up today. It's the Volselka, the 8-foot fluff rod.
Oh, dude, that hair rod. I have one I'm getting from him at the river.
Yeah, I just got it
Best
today.
hair I got hair jig rod out there. I mean, I throw all Kisslers now. I'm sponsored by Kistler, and I still bought one of Dane's rods for full price because it's that good of a hair jig rod.
Well, and that's the thing. I've been wanting it for like 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, do I need to really spend the money on a rod that I throw for like 2 or 3 weeks? Like that, that's. I mean, there's other applications for it, that you can use on it, but I don't throw a spy bait much. I throw a hair jig from like opener until beginning of June, and that's about it. But I finally went for it. He does the cork handle. Now I'm a big cork guy. I'm not a foam guy. He lets you pick the colors for the wraps and stuff like that. So super pumped. That's probably, I usually cast a jerkbait immediately when I go to Mille Lacs. My first cast with a jerkbait, but I might have to use that sucker right away and bomb a hair jig just locked in your hand. How far I can launch that thing. Yeah, that's what I got. I was gonna say also the last episode I mentioned, I think the one in my cart was the little Berkeley little trooper, little Maxent crawbait. That thing killed for me in Wisconsin on smallies. It's literally 2.5 inches long, and I was throwing a regular Ned, couldn't get bit on that, couldn't get bit on a jerkbait, tied that little trooper on and started going to town. It's like a little morsel for those guys. So I'm interested to see what that thing does on Mille Lacs too for opener. Being that the water's going to be cold, throw a smaller bait and see what happens. Right. But
I'm hoping it's jerkbait all day, every day. It could be. I mean, if that water's like 48 to 50 and the wind's blowing, it's going to be a little cloud cover.
If it's 48 and 50, it's jerkbait and a swim bait all day. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in.
But that's pretty much all I have. Did you guys have anything else for the episode? Me and Brent, we were contemplating on maybe doing a live show up on Mille Lacs for opener. Nick might be up there. Waldo's staying with me. So we might have a special guest. Where's Waldo? You might be able to see Waldo in a live episode.
Yeah, I'll bring my gear with in case we do, and we'll go from there. But it'll either be, we'll do it one of those nights if possible. But
hopefully still be fishing on you follow.
Yeah,
They'll be somewhere on the long drive home.
Right. We won't send you any pictures if you're on the long ride home of giant smallies.
Dude, I've already caught like 150, 200 of them this year.
Yeah, you're good.
Right? I'm pretty happy. Like,
You're good.
I don't need many. I mean, I would love to. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm pretty good. I'd like to catch a big largemouth or two.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we don't do a live recording, we'll try to get another episode here in a couple of weeks to talk about how opener went and stuff. Other than that, good luck down there, Bart.
Thank you,
you
sir.
whack and get some redemption. And Brent, I will see you up on Mille Lacs on Friday. It's go time.
We'll get some pizzas.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
And maybe some bush lattes.
Yeah, possibly.
All right, guys.
Bye, boys.
We will talk next time.
All right. See you, boys.
See ya.
Thank you.